Good evening. We are here today with an exclusive look into what happens on Pennsylvania Avenue. We have been given access to an audio tape of a discussion taking place directly in the Situation Room at the White House, and we are going to be playing it for you, the listeners, right now. What you are about to hear features the country's best minds arguing intensely over the proper course of action. We have left it unedited to give you a genuine look into the democratic process, but be warned that at times the discussion may get heated and confusing. We will now be cutting to the exclusive, raw, uncut, unedited, uncensored footage. Listen at your own discretion.
Welcome, everyone. I'm excited for another productive day of governmental decision-making. Now, I know we were supposed to meet today to decide what to change the national anthem to, but something's come to my attention.
Okay.
My former personal secretary, who you all know, Now, when I see the MS, is it Ms. or Mrs.? It's Ms.
It's Ms.
It's Miss.
Thank you, Vice President. Thank you. All right. My former personal secretary, Ms. Doe, who I fired last week for gross incompetence, has disappeared. Reported missing by an aunt in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Her car was found abandoned on Interstate 70 near Clear Spring, Maryland. According to Doe's landlord, she was moving back to Pittsburgh and would be staying with the aforementioned aunt. No one has seen or heard a word from Doe in 2 days. The White House IT director reports that illegal copies were made of my personal correspondence files 2 weeks ago, unnoticed due to a recent server glitch. The IT director has determined the list of copied correspondence contains a potentially explosive memo. The Cavendish memo is a 6-month-old personal letter from my old college friend, the Cavendish Corporation CEO. Now say that 3 times fast. Suggesting that if certain environmental statutes were relaxed for the corporation, they could build a new factory in Montana. A Cavendish factory would bring in new jobs, cause the local and state tax revenues to increase dramatically, and lead to enhanced economic development throughout the region. Also, Cavendish is known for high worker satisfaction due to its extensive health benefits following my own presidential recommendations. A plank in my election platform. Bear with me, we're almost there. At the time, I responded with tentative interest in pursuing further talks about the CEO's plans. Unfortunately, giving Cavendish a pass on these environmental restrictions would directly violate the new Global Environment Treaty I just signed last month in Oslo. The White House phone bank is being swamped with calls from voters about my secretary and the missing files. The White House press corps is demanding a statement. What will I do? Was I supposed to read all that to y'all?
Yeah.
Thank God. About halfway through, I was wondering if it was...
No, you're...
I have one question.
Now, Gallup, is this... I still have more to read. Is this a question about what we've heard so far, or are you excited to jump in?
It's a question about what we heard
right.
so far. What did you say? Did you say Doe's first name is Jane?
You know what? She worked for me for years, but I really didn't catch it. She was just such a bore.
Gotcha. So Jane Doe. I got it.
Incisive about people.
So, the Cavendish Corporation memo has been released to the domestic and foreign media. The White House press corps is screaming for a statement. The media and the internet blogs are alive with discussion of Ms. Doe's disappearance. The public, the media, and the international community demands answers of me, Mr. President. Now, I will read to you. I am supposed to read these to you? Our possible courses of
choices?
action? Yes, my options.
Is it within the 00, or is
Yes.
it in the... Then I think you can read it to us, yeah.
All right. So, with that being said, here are our options. We can, 1, support the Cavendish memo. The benefits to the tentative agreement are substantial, even enough to balance the backlash from violating the Global Environment Treaty in this one isolated case. 2nd, rebuke the Cavendish memo. Agreeing to the outlined plan is poison now that it's been widely dissented. Nope. Ooh, good guy. 3 years in office, you really just get complacent. All right. Agreeing to the outline...
You've got people to read for you.
Thank you. I was elected to read, not to lead. Whoa. Whoa.
I think you got those mixed
And
up.
not to speak, apparently.
Can we get Miss Doe to get you some coffee? Oh.
Miss Doe is missing.
Okay, so number 1 is support.
Buster's a little high.
Yes,
Number 2 is rebuke. Agreeing to the outline plan is poison now that it's been widely disseminated. The loss of face in the international community would be tremendous. 3, refuse to comment. Situation is too thorny for intemperate speech. It's worth putting up with the cries of the public and the media until the whole problem can be unraveled from Ms. Doe's disappearance. 4, start the spin machine. Whee! Refocus attention on the missing Miss Doe, possibly trying to paint her as a political operative. Or 5, and, I had to put this in there. We're not really thinking about it. Resign. I'm caught between a rock and a hard place because the existence of the memo and my as yet unrevealed reply is a political and diplomatic firebomb. Best to just step down. All right, I am now taking statements. What do we think?
Mr. President, first off, I just want to say I would hit the launch codes. I'd hit the red button before I allow you to resign.
Thank you, Buster. Is that it?
I just want to vocalize my total support for this administration.
I needed that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I personally think that we can't really move forward until we know where Miss Doe is. You say that she's got personal emails, including this Cavendish memo. What else does she have, Mr. President? What are you missing? What was in those emails?
You know what? I gotta tell you, I haven't the slightest clue about how severe these could be. I know, don't give me that. You know how Miss Doe was. She was just such wet cardboard to talk to. I couldn't remember a thing she said.
What we do know, Mr. President, is that what we're dealing with here is an act of treason, and it should be dealt with the highest degree of seriousness. I recommend our first course of action be to send our most elite troops to locate and take care of Miss Doe. I mean, in apprehending her, first of all, but she has access to trade secrets. And for all we know, I know you suggested even spinning the story to see if Miss Doe is responsible, but I do not think we should discount the possibility that Miss Doe was acting in bad faith, in collusion with a foreign country. Our borders are we need to act fast.
Have we considered the possibility that Miss Doe was kidnapped?
I was just about to say, I think we might be jumping our horses a little bit too quick on this matter. We of course want to find Miss Doe and make sure that she is okay, but we also have to deal with the fact that the public is running for your throat right now, Mr. President.
I fully agree.
This issue,
yes.
You made a promise to the people to help conserve and protect our fertile crescent.
No, I don't know all about that. No,
hold on.
Let me just say. I think we gotta spin it. We gotta spin it. Look, it doesn't. I didn't hear anything about a little government whoopsie on perhaps taking somebody out. La la la. Didn't hear any of that. But let me just say that perhaps if Ms. Doe were to disappear and we were to spin it as she was an operative.
I'm not recommending anything in regards to disappearing Miss Doe, but what I am saying is
right.
I believe that Ms. Doe is completely a distraction from what's important here. The voters, the constituents, what they care about is they care about addressing the issue at hand, which is whether or not you're going to reject this memo. They're going to be talking about this memo for much longer than they're going to be talking about Miss Doe. And she may come up with more, but we can deal with that later. At present, we have to release a statement on how we are absolutely not going along with this memo.
We have to release
There is no way we can allow any sort of leniencies for these corporations based exclusively on your personal connections. This will look terrible to the voters. This will look terrible.
We need to release a memo that states that this Miss Doe was acting as a political operative, and we need to reframe the situation. You see, here's the thing. The voters care what we want them to care about at the end of the day. Look, I got media contacts in my back pocket. I got all of them. I got a Rolodex of them, and I don't even need a Rolodex, but I want to look at the names and flip through them because I've got people that'll get on this stat, and damn it, we'll turn this whole thing around.
It's like a fidget. You can just
exactly.
spin it.
Sorry,
that's why I wear the best duo to ever do.
We agree that this plan is important, and the things that you discussed in the memo and this deal were important because this plan that you signed and that you made with Cavendish gets tax revenue that can go back to the people, and that is what the people want, right? But you have to deal with the fact that you also just signed this conservation, this world, this treaty to help decrease greenhouse gas emissions.
exactly
I
right.
think
We
there's
cannot
a
go
little
back
bit of
on our
imbalance.
promise. We
Do
cannot
the
go
work.
back on our promises to the planet, both in terms of the environment
Polar
and
bears
in
do
terms
not
of
vote.
our neighbors.
We made a promise. We made a promise on this global scale, but what about the promises that we make to Americans specifically? I do agree with the chief of staff that our priority should always be the American people. That is the constituency that we serve.
And
directly.
we want these
No.
American people to be able to enjoy the green environments and pastures of their beautiful, beautiful country.
We want
We
these
need to
American
preserve
people-
that as much
Secretary
as
Joseph,
possible.
Secretary Joseph, I understand your agenda here, right? And I respect that, but I do want to hear more
I
from Madam
don't.
President and Chief of Staff Buster Ballot. You think your argument is that despite the memo, voters will be satisfied if we still support it?
I think that we want look, here's the thing. We've already said we've both agreed and disagreed to the memo. That's the perfect place you want to be. We've said two different things. All we need to do is get the people to forget that we've said two different things by reframing it about their safety. At the end of the day, we care about their safety. They don't give a crap about some highfalutin Oslo Accord. They want jobs, but they want to know there's a couple that like that we signed it. So we sign it, we give them jobs. They don't care. It all goes away.
And on that regard, Mr. President, I think our road to action is very clear. This is your election year we're talking about. We need to be firm in our stance. I have no doubt, and please agree with me here, because I have a feeling
Please clap.
that CEO Cavendish is a huge donor to your upcoming
Absolutely.
campaign, right? A key factor in your securing a second term as president. If that is the case, what we need to do is play both sides. You are not taking a weak stance by supporting the memo. We're America at the end of the goddamn day. Everybody is scared of us because we have the biggest military and we have all the power to control the room. Now, in this point, I want to ask you, truly, do you think that supporting the memo is going to cause any backlash? Sure, on a smaller sense. But in the larger sense, what you are doing is ensuring American jobs for the future. Money that can be spent into potentially, helping the environment. But truly, at the end of the day, these foreign oppositions that are lingering in our territories, they don't respect you. Why should we respect a treaty we sign with them? Make a show of it.
We're hearing
For your election.
That's
We're
the green
hearing-
we need to conserve.
Exactly.
Money.
We're hearing very clear arguments on both the sides of, rebuting and supporting the Cavendish memo. I personally stand more with supporting the Cavendish memo in that, you're being spun in a negative light from one memo that you sent to a personal friend that should never have been released. However, I cannot overstate that making a move right now while we do not know what else she has in her pocket, that scares me. It scares me to think that if we come out very strongly one way or the other, and then she has more stuff to release, that you're going to end up looking like, and no disrespect meant, but you're going to end up looking like a fool.
Exactly.
Mr. President, I want you to think about two things. One, where does our military come into this operation? This is about our homegrown soil, and this is about what we do with our country. Are we going to start attacking our citizens? Are we going to start attacking your constituents? See, if you bring the military into this thing, people are going to think you're a tyrant. The last thing you want people to think right now is that you are unapproachable. You want people to think the people who elected you, why did they elect you? Because you're handsome. Because you speak for their values. And the second thing I want you to think about
My
is
God, President Gordon, you'll save everyone.
we're in correspondence with Cavendish. What did you say to them? Do you remember?
Sorry, ask me that again.
You were in correspondence with Cavendish. Do you remember anything you could have said that might compromise you?
Compromise myself would be agreeing to this while the treaty is in clear violation of it. So here's my pitch. Here's my pitch for spinning it. What if we said it was AI?
That's what I'm saying.
The average voter has a hard time distinguishing it. So we could say, oh, this was signed before the treaty.
Brilliant.
What I think we should do, and this is
Brilliant.
the problem with it isn't that you're supporting this deal. This is a good deal. Americans like this deal despite the environmental ramifications.
Americans care about the environment.
They
Americans
care
want
about
their
the
porn.
environment.
They care about the environment. They want to
It's
live in a healthy
hard.
country and a healthy world, and the rest of
It's
the world
hard to
wants
care.
that too.
It's hard to care about the great outdoors when you're trying to get heating on your indoors, right? You need to have money. You need to have a healthy, thriving economy before we can go beyond that to these luxuries.
The more the earth warms up, the more we're going to need to pay for the air
warms up, we won't need
conditioning in order
heating
to
anymore.
We want our children, our grandchildren, to see the beautiful mountains and the beautiful trees of this great, beautiful country from sea to shining
Purple
sea.
Mountain Majesty.
We want the people of this country to be happy with money in their pocket, and we want money in ours as well. It's money all around. Money at the end of the day is what's going to get you the votes. And so to choose the natural land over that cold hard cash is political idiocy.
Yeah. But if
You can have both.
I
If we
agree. You
can-
can have both because we want to save face on the foreign level. So, just don't say anything. We spin it to distract, and then we just kick back.
if we can spin it in a way that says, hey, this is taken out of context, this is a correspondence with an old friend of mine, of course we are not approaching the deal from this personal level. It is from, a governmental level, it is reasonable, it is good for Americans, then that is great. However, and I have to say this again, if this is part of an email chain where later you say, oh, Cavendish, you're my best buddy in the whole world, and that gets released later, that is going to be really bad. So I agree, we kind of need to hold tight for now and focus on finding her and seeing what else she has.
Mr. President, let me
talking
say one thing.
short-term
Mr. President, let me say one thing.
We're talking short-term
Think
plans.
about.
If you'll
think
give me a
of- think of-
second,
No,
Secretary
Mr. President,
Joseph.
let me say one
Actually,
thing.
I
wanna
think
say
the
that
Secretary
people
of the
of America
Interior
don't
has
agree.
something
Mr.
valuable to
President,
say.
Mr. President,
just listen.
Let the
You
Secretary of
let me
Interior
speak.
speak.
Let me
Mr.
speak.
President,
Let me
let me
speak.
say
You've been
one
speaking
more.
a whole
Let me
lot.
actually
All
have a
right,
speak.
hold. So, Secretary Greenhorn, did you say Purple Mountain Majesty earlier? Was that a Crayola color?
That is.
Are you familiar with the song?
Are you familiar with the song?
Does it
Are
say
you familiar with
Purple
the
Mountain?
song, Mr.
Purple
President?
Mountain
Purple
You
Mountain
walked out
Majesty.
to that song
Yeah.
in one of your campaign
Mr.
speeches.
Mr. President, that was
Mr.
that was.
You know what?
Mr.
This meeting
President.
was supposed to be about changing the national anthem. No, I'm sorry. Back to the.
Mr.
It's actually not the national
we
anthem.
will one day.
It's not the
should-
national anthem, Mr.
We're
President.
talking about the short term here, Mr. President. But again, you have another 4 years, and this is going to be something that haunts the rest of those 4 years. Let's.
We have
secure
not
it in
confirmed the
short
next
term.
4 years.
They won't be haunted if we just make the people forget. The
Secretary-
American people do not read.
Secretary
people.
Joseph, are you implying that President Gordon will not be the next president? Or
As
we're not
long as
operating
you-
under that assumption?
If you do anything but reject this memo, then yes, that may
No,
be the
let-
case.
You
let's
wouldn't
talk-
you
let's
wouldn't
talk the short
stand
term.
with the president?
I absolutely would stand with any decision the president makes. However, I might be standing with a sinking
Okay.
ship if we were to make the wrong decision.
You're not standing on a sinking ship. That's what we're here to talk about. Your
Look, you're not the
options.
captain. If you
They're
think it's
closing
sinking,
down
abandon it.
options. Okay? We are talking short term.
I'm
Let's
like the
talk
band on the
long
Titanic.
term.
I will keep
Let's
playing
talk
no matter what.
long term, Mr. President. In the face of this, these emails exist, and there's no making that disappear eventually. The American public knows it's out there. We weren't quick enough.
What? So
For
some
that, we're
diehard
sorry.
lefties stick
However,
around remembering it? We don't care
in
about
the long
them.
term. In the
I'm
exactly.
having- I'm having-
being hacked.
However, or power.
Oh
I
my
think
God,
we're being
Miss
hacked.
Stone!
We're being
Miss
hacked. We're
Stone!
being hacked.
Oh my
This
God.
is my
It is
perfect,
AI.
perfect
It is AI. The
opportunity
vice
to come
president
in.
was correct.
Wait, everybody pause. Anish, you were cutting in and out.
Mr. President.
Yes, we were talking short term versus long term.
In the long term, these strategies to spin the story may buy you some time, but we need to talk long term. At the end of the day, it really does come down to whether you rebuke or support this memo. They've given their opinions. Let me give you mine. In the long term, you need to support this memo. Cavendish will get you reelected, but not only that, the American people will need jobs in this few coming years,
we will look like clowns on the foreign stage. Why are we making a hard stance at all?
Think about the tweets, Mr. President. Think about the memes. You don't want them
Hard
to
stances
depict
don't
you
win
as
us
the
you
soy
do
jack.
not
The
make
American
a hard
people want to
stance
vote for a
in the
blank
future,
slate that they can
you
project
will
their
look
own
weak.
ideas onto.
Mr.
You
President.
Be the president
They are
who is
depicting
remembered
Mr.
other
President.
countries
for
as the
losing the
Chad, and
jobs
you are the
of
soy
Mr.
jack
President.
in the
Americans.
meme.
This
Is that-
agreement
is that
has
good
already
for
been
campaigning?
made. Has
America
Mr.
has
President,
land
wait,
to
When have I
spare.
steered you wrong?
The
Back in our
plant-
Yale
has the
days,
plant
we
already
used
been
to
built?
Get up to all
Has the
sorts
plant
of
already
things,
been
but I
built?
never
Please,
once-
please. You
The
know,
Has it
I only
already
have
been
2
built?
years. I only
The
have 2
president's
years.
speaking.
And I'm interested in everyone's input because to get reelected is imperative. So whatever we decide to do, I want it to be informed with that goal in mind. Now, I think Secretary Greenhorn had a good point. Is the plant built? Would we have to tear it down? If it's already built, I say we support the memo.
Is it already built?
don't
That
believe
is the
it's
question.
built.
Is it already built? It's not built yet?
I'll reread my notes. Okay, so the memo is 6 months old. And I'm hearing, okay, the memo suggested if we relaxed the statutes, they could build a factory in Montana.
Okay. I see.
So I
And
think
then it would bring in jobs.
ball has
At the time,
started
I
rolling.
responded with tentative interest, pursuing further talks. So I maybe I didn't say anything, specific. I just expressed some tentative interest.
Mr. President, I want you to think about Montana for a second. Now, I'm from out west, so I'm familiar with the area.
Can't say I've ever
been there.
done that before.
It's
Tell me about
well,
Montana.
Mr. President, Montana
we
is a
lost
beautiful.
Montana in the election.
Montana is a beautiful state that is filled with various natural beauties, whether it be mountains, forests, or galloping horses. And I want you to think right now about the way this plant could affect it. I don't think the plant is all bad. What I think is we need to find a way to make the plant and bring the people together so that we can make this plant good for both the environment and the people. It's a win-win, in my opinion.
I mean, what the people in Montana want are jobs. They want
That's what
to
I'm
be
saying.
tax less, and they want jobs. And really, at the end of the day, Montana is one of the biggest states in the United States of America. I mean, can we be real here? There's land to spare, right? I mean, if we're talking re-election, that's what we need to do. We need to make sure that the voters there are satisfied. Like,
Okay.
are we not in agreement on that?
And here's what's coming to mind. If we can pull this off, next campaign. Life's what you make it, and Zach makes it rock. So if we can get Montana on,
Oh, all right.
By
You're talking Hannah.
God,
You're
you
talking Hannah.
cracked the code.
You want to bring in Miley Cyrus back into the Hannah Montana persona that she's not done in years. That's
That
and it would
that could-
Kind of
distract.
brilliant.
It would distract the voters.
I have bad
Exactly.
news. I
Tell
have
me.
bad news. I need you to know. Miley Cyrus did post a tweet saying that she and Jane Doe were friends in high school.
All right, so we're not
We have to
gonna
assassinate
have.
Well,
Miley
even if
Cyrus
we
as
could get
well.
her support, that would be even better.
That's true.
If we came out,
and
we
she's
came out
a
and we
celebrity.
said,
We could pay her.
if we came out and we said, right
maybe
now,
maybe no memos of the payment this time.
Excuse me,
Yes.
the president is speaking.
all cash this time. Teacher. So if we were to put the spin on it and say we're all too distraught right now to even address the memo, which may or may not have even been sent from my office, it might have been some
Could be
AI
anything.
hacking. A lot of hacking going on these days.
Also, we
We're-
could fire someone. Sorry, not to
If-
interrupt.
Well, I didn't even consider that.
If we're
Perhaps we
talking
should
also
fire
if we're
you
talking
with that
about
suggestion.
Mr. President, if we're talking about the people and what the people want and what the people think, Montana, I love it. It's a beautiful state. It only has 4 electoral votes.
That's what I was.
Where
gonna say.
is the hullabaloo? Where is the calls for rebuking this coming from? It's coming from California. It's coming from New York. It's coming from these states with substantial amounts of electoral votes. That
Think
if
about
they
the
went-
single issue voters who care about the environment.
I don't give a
if they
crap
went
about
against
Montana. I
you,
give a crap about
if
the
these states like
global
Pennsylvania,
political state.
where, if you remember, Miss Doe went missing in Pennsylvania and states like this. Pennsylvania cares a whole lot about this, and Pennsylvania is a state you cannot afford to lose, Mr. President.
So what are you suggesting?
You have
I'm
to
st-
reject the
I'm-
memo.
to reject the memo.
If we
lose.
rebuke the memo, if we
American
rebuke
jobs.
the memo, then we are cowing. We are bowing to the tree huggers. I'll say it. That's what they are.
Damn straight.
Over American jobs, over livelihoods. What I'm saying, we should strongly support the international agreement and say, listen, we signed this, we agree with it. Absolutely, this is something we are for. However, nothing is more important than American livelihoods.
Let me say,
President.
it is not just the people who are passionate about the environment that you imply are the only people at stake here. The entire rest of the world is going to be critiquing us on this.
That's why we don't take a hard stance.
And we're going to
Mr.
look like
President.
complete hypocrites in comparison. And
Mr.
that is
President,
not
I also
our
want you to
role.
think about,
People will
do you
forget.
remember
Mr.
what happened
President, I've
a
known
few
you for
years ago in
15
East
years.
Palestine in Ohio? You remember the crash of the train that spread the velvet and ruined the lives of hundreds of people. Think about the potential fallout that could happen from a plant without the proper regulations.
And
Talk
we
about
do mean
making
literal
jobs.
fallout.
Talk about
They will
ruining
be
people's
nuking us
lives.
if we break this deal.
They
There's-
will not.
we will not.
Verbally
Be
and
They're not
rejected.
gonna
nuke
nuke
us.
My
us.
God, that's a slippery
You're-
slope.
You remember
fallacy I've
what
ever heard in
Duke
my life.
Power
You
did
are
in North Carolina with their coal
Slippery
plant?
Slippery slope.
Mr. President, the people don't care about Montana. And the people in Montana don't care about the environment. So why do we have to say anything? The only reason that we should not vocally support fully this memo is because of the foreign stage. You will lose face. You will lose trust. So we smile in their face, and then we do the deal behind their back. It's the American way. It's the American
What
way.
is
Say
the
American
nothing, and you
Either
do
way, this means you
It's
have
the
to
American way.
publicly reject it.
No one is
No, to
saying
publicly
that.
No one is
reject it
saying
is
that.
idiocy,
No one
damn
is
it.
saying that.
Absolutely
No one is
not.
saying
Why
that.
are you
Publicly
even in
reject
here?
it.
Have you ever been to
Regardless of what we
Yellowstone?
do, if we
Meeting?
publicly say
Have
that
you
we're
ever
not
been to
doing
Glacier
it, then
National
that's
Park?
going to save so much face.
So you're suggesting that we publicly reject it but still do the deal?
Regardless of what we do, that's the next step. We have to make a statement today about this.
I don't
Mr.
think that you can
President.
afford to say that you were wrong. I don't think that standing in front of the
Exactly.
American people and saying, "Oh, I agreed to something, and now that you're calling me on it, I can't do it."
You
that
didn't
will not
agree
go
to
over.
anything.
That will make you look
Mr.
weak.
President.
You
So
didn't agree
distract
to
the American
anything.
people and just tell them
Nobody
what they care
likes
about.
the
You
corporations.
agreed to one thing, and
If
it was
you
this deal
reject
with
the
the whole world,
corporations-
and that you can't go back on.
Exactly. So don't.
So you have to reject the
Wink,
memo.
wink.
Secretary
No, no, no,
Shaw,
no, no, no.
you would know about our international relations. Where do you weigh in on? Do we need to say something today?
Oh, in that regard, our allies are shrinking by the days. Truly. But do you have to care about that? That's the question we have to ask. At the end of the day, the more power we have in our back pocket, the more we can afford to take the steps to secure an American victory on our soil in all regards, in giving people our jobs, in keeping our country beautiful, and satisfying our voters. The more we can satisfy ourselves, the less we have to worry about those things. So if you're asking me honestly, I'm going to tell you, don't worry about the treaty. Truly, this is a smudge, a tiny little blip on the map that is represented in a long-term commitment. Sure.
Don't, yeah, exactly. Don't worry about the treaty, but don't
Don't-
spit in the face of Norway. So just don't say anything.
Yeah.
Just
You-
Do you
don't
know
say
how
anything.
it? Do you know how it
You-
looks when
And
you see
tell
a
them
list
that
of
this is a
people
matter
that have
of
agreed to the treaty
national security.
next
We
to the one
blame
country that has
Congress.
said no?
We
And
can
you know
blame
what?
Congress.
America is
Yes,
always
that is the
that
country.
says no.
We-
We have the power. We can say whatever we
We
want.
can say
we can
no.
do whatever we
And
want.
do we think that that looks
We
good
don't need to
when
say
the
no.
rest of
It
the world
doesn't
agrees
matter.
that
If
we
the
should
American people
protect
don't care,
the world?
they
Secretary
won't.
Joseph,
How does it affect
let
our
me handle the international affairs. You want to know what people think of us? We're the bullies that tell people what to think, and what they think is that America is incredible. Yes, yes. I'll
Secretary
say it.
Shaw, do
It
you think we
doesn't
should
matter.
just throw guns and weapons at
beautiful.
everything? Should we just blow it all up? No, this is about
I'm
fixing
not saying
things
that.
on the
Is
home
anybody
front.
hearing me say that we should blow it up?
No
Is
one
anybody
said
saying?
that. No
No
one
one
said that.
Secretary Greenhorn,
You
stay on
called
the
us the
farm.
bully. We
Please.
shouldn't be the bully. We should be the leader. We should be helping people.
We are the
That's
leaders.
what
We should set
we
an
are
example of
supposed
having
to
our
be.
own beautiful
Set an
country.
example.
Machiavellian
Mountain
Secretary.
castle
Look
on a
at-
hill.
look at our
City on a
country.
hill.
You go
Isn't that
every
what this country is
intersection,
founded
there's
on?
a
President
IHOP,
Gordon,
There's a McDonald's.
what
there's
we
a
need to focus
Burger
That's
King.
on
It's the same
beautiful.
is
intersection
making sure
everywhere. Is
that this
real?
Miss
Look,
Doe,
go
who
to
committed
Europe for one
treason,
day, and you've
is
got the
taken
most
care of.
beautiful walkable
Exactly.
cities. We need to have
Precisely.
beautiful
This is a matter of
mountains,
national security.
beautiful canyons.
Look,
This is
if
a
the
m-
people are worried that we're not safe, then
Yes.
they don't care whatever else we do. And then we tell the foreign
It sounds to
politicians
me
we're
like
still
none
agreeing.
of you trust our voters and our
I
constituents who we
trust our
represent.
I trust our voters to know what's right for the people as long as we tell them what's right.
And you're talking to the chief of staff. Nobody cares more than him.
Look,
So-
this is no. Sorry. Please, Mr. President.
Thank you. I'm gonna go through our 5 options, and I would love for each of you to indicate with your fingers where we're leaning. So we could support the memo. We could rebuke the memo. We could just refuse to comment. We could spin the narrative, or I could resign.
Here's how I propose. We didn't really talk about it,
Yeah,
Mr.
show me your
President.
numbers. Show me your numbers,
Mr. President, if you'll allow me a minute.
please.
We haven't talked about how to spin it. We've been talking short term, long term. Give a statement. Don't. If you really want to spin it, truly talk about what's really happening on American soil. Foreign infiltrators are trying to spin narratives and influence our politics from the inside out. Truly. And when I say that, I mean the truth, because I have been looking into it and I know more than any of you in this room exactly how much espionage factors into our everyday life. I have no doubt in my mind that Miss Doe is one of those operatives. Truly, a committer of treason. So,
Exactly.
if we want to spin it, truly, there is a way in which to show that international infiltration is happening on our soil in the short term. Truly, if you want to spin it that way in the early terms, totally fine. But at the end of the day, my vote truly is for your future as well as the rest of us here. One small blip, it's fine.
Are you
So it
suggesting
sounds like we're in
we
agreement with
support
spinning
it,
it.
or we spin it?
I am for whatever you do, Mr. President. I personally think you should support the memo, but if we need to spin it, so be it. I'll have my military down, ready to make it happen.
Why give vocal blatant support when we can all we need to give vocal blatant support for is the safety of this nation?
I think keeping American voters happy is part of that.
Exactly.
I think
100%.
keeping these destructive factories out of the country is part of that.
We're not
Secretary
listening to
Joseph,
you anymore.
Secretary Joseph, please, for a moment, where else are blue collar workers going to get employed? It's not like we just have dreams and sprinkle rainbow factories that's going to provide jobs. Where would you suggest that they get their income from, if not from factories?
There are certainly other places where we can. There are many places,
Name
many
one.
And
departments.
yes, okay.
It is not my
Where-
job to
where
name
do
the
those
departments
workers
in
get their
economic
healthcare?
development. There are plenty
Mr.
other
President.
places
Where do
where
those
we
workers
can
get
send
their
these
healthcare?
people. We
Not a
don't
lot
need
of
another
from
the
factory
Cavendish
that goes
factory.
that
You're
goes
not
against.
It's a good company.
You're not just protecting the environment, you're removing health care for so many families.
Not protecting the
American
environment
If
is
we
removing
don't
health
keep
care
giving-
from
if we
everybody.
don't
Are we
keep
saying
giving
healthcare has
From
to
your
be related
grandchildren.
and
then they're
tied to
gonna want us to
employment?
give them health care from us. We need the factories to give the health care.
Exactly.
Are you
And if
saying?
we want
I
health
think
care,
the
grows
implication
on
here is
street,
that these
support
people in
the
Montana
memo.
is that the workers in Montana are only fit to work in the
Support the
factory.
memo.
I resent that implication.
I
The
think
people of
Secretary
Montana
Shaw-
want the factory. They yearn for the factory floor. It's in their blood. It's in their nature.
It's in their
I
blood.
think Secretary
I-
Shaw has swayed me slightly in terms of I was pro kind of waiting and seeing what other
There's no avoiding it.
emails she has, but I agree. There's no avoiding it. I think you have to take a hard stance.
There's
I-
no
No,
avoiding it.
that's lunacy. Why would you take a
You
hard
absolutely do have to take a
It's-
hard
it's
stance
not.
because when you try to
people
deflect
staff,
at the
chief
press
of
at the press
staff.
conference, when you try to deflect, the next question is going to be, "What about the memo?" When you
I'm
when you
proud-
start
Don't
talking
read
about
the
Jane
newspapers
Doe,
They do.
anymore.
Chief of staff,
They
you
just
know
read a
more than anybody
headline.
else. You know more than
And the
anybody
headlines
else.
will all say
my
foreign
God.
operatives
We're
steal
talking
state
about.
secrets.
Oh,
Wait,
The Cavendish Corporation has just issued a statement saying that the CEO's letter was not a corporate communication, but simply a personal discussion between old college chums. Furthermore, the CEO has resigned from Cavendish. Ms. Doe is still missing, but the FBI has some sketchy evidence that connects her to one of my political opponents. She has been seen, after her dismissal, in his company having a late supper in Georgetown. My press secretary has scheduled a press conference, oh my God, in 25 minutes.
for 25 minutes? Okay.
Like in 25 minutes, we have to be prepared with a statement.
We say the FBI is looking into it. That
Yeah.
there is a possibility that there has been collusion. Look, we flip it. This is going to be Watergate, but not for you.
I'm freaking
Watergate
out.
for your political candidate.
I think
this
that
is
political
him,
opponent.
This is
him
perfect.
stepping down is perfect.
This is a perfect opportunity for you to rebuke the memo, because now the memo is seen as
You don't
completely
have to-
invalid
you don't
because
have
the
You don't have to
other
say
party.
anything about the memo.
exactly. The
No,
chief
no,
of
no.
staff is
The
right.
memo's all done.
The chief of
memo's
staff is
kaput.
right. The chief
you-
of staff is right.
Yeah.
What we can do is be vague. Truly. We don't have to say, because again, we don't know how solid this evidence is, but the FBI is looking into it, right? And we have evidence of collusion with certain parties, and we don't have to comment any more than that.
Exactly.
Really.
State secrets are on the line. The press can't get too much when it comes to that.
And we need to treat it with the utmost seriousness. This is not about political campaigns. This is about the safety of American citizens and their information.
I
Exactly.
have
I'm sorry, suddenly it's not about campaigning when this entire discussion has been about campaigning so far.
Well, we're saving face, which is part of the campaigning.
Yeah. I think that that is the safe option. That's a good option to have in your back pocket. However, I think that Cavendish really did you a solid, stepping down like that and sort of taking it onto himself. And I think that America likes people who stand by their friends. I think that it might be worth it to consider coming out here and saying, that was a personal memo. That was casual. That was nothing. However, it's a good plan. However, that building jobs, developing the area is a good move to make. And Cavendish, despite the personal connections, has created an excellent business that creates good jobs for Americans. And by, standing by him and saying he has removed himself from this situation, so it's not personal, it is just a good deal.
Also,
Vice
the
President,
people hate
absolutely
cancel
not.
I have a
culture.
question
The
for
people
you,
hate
Vice
cancel
President.
culture.
President.
Spin it as that way as well.
You have a question for me?
I do. Are you suggesting that despite the global environment treaty, that we pursue rhetoric now and into the future regarding American development over conservation efforts?
I think that, once again, this is the situation where conservation efforts are a long-term goal, good goal to have. When American jobs take precedent, when there is a moment like this where the pros of the situations far outweigh the cons, we aren't going to be incredibly lenient, right? There's some measures that are being made. Perhaps we can work it out so that it all is above board. But the building of the new factory is the priority.
Chief of Staff, I have a
Mr.
question
President,
for you
I
then.
think what
I want to know then, how has our voter base reacted to our signing of the global treaty?
That's a good question.
The global community would respond very poorly if we vocally came out and stated, of course, this memo was anything more than college friends reconnecting. But we've already been done that solid, so we don't have to say anything further on the memo. We are looking a-okay with the treaty. Really, like, all we need here. Look, we're going to get the American people on our side by spinning this as a security issue and by spinning this as a cancel culture issue. The American
Mr.
people hate
President,
cancel
I
culture.
think
100%.
what
Some
your
internet
opponent
mafia
did
blogger
here
has
was
come
give
in
you
and
a
tried to
large
cancel
solid.
an upstanding businessman.
If what we're doing is
Because-
bringing in cancel culture, then the CEO of the company has admitted here to a fault and is going to be perceived negatively by the press. So by standing by him and considering this memo at all, it is going to make you appear like you are interacting and supporting people that are at fault and people that have
Mr. President, you
committed
got elected. One of
transgressions against-
one of the pillars of your campaign. I think one of the things we need to remember. One of the pillars of your campaign was to make this factory. This was a large thing you campaigned on, aside from, also the global accord, both important pillars of your campaign. And I think now that we have this issue, one, we have to worry less about your opponent, because this coming out about your opponent and it potentially being an inclusion issue, this is a great boon for you. And what this
Absolutely.
boon means is that you have the leeway to make decisions and the leeway to change and bend things that you had done in the past. Now, this memo coming out is not great. It is not great for you, and it's not great for the people of this country. But with Cavendish stepping down, with it coming out that your opponent was potentially involved with Miss Doe in this whole thing, I think this allows you to kind of take a little bit of a middle ground. Now, I'm not saying you should stop this factory, because I think creating jobs is an important part of your campaign strategy, and building that tax revenue is important. But I think you could say, we are going to aim to make this factory more environmentally conscious, do some of those things to make it better for the people, so that way you can satisfy both sides. I think there is a way through this to do that.
Why are we talking about the factory at all? Shift away from the factory. Shift away from the treaty.
Let me
None
tell
of
you how
this is news.
Let me tell you how this appears to the average voter. They're going to see now the Cavendish announcement that this was a personal email between you and a CEO who has now stepped down, and it is requesting you to give a personal leniency, for you to skirt a policy for this person specifically, a friend. It's going to paint you as a politician that takes bribes, that accepts that
That is an
values
insane
personal
statement to make right
relationship.
now. Who said anything about bribes?
insane.
Who
This
said
is how it
anything about
appears.
bribes?
I am not saying that there are bribes.
I take
involved.
offense.
However,
This is how the voters will
friendship
see it.
I take
is being
offense.
held over
No
you
way.
as
So,
leverage.
Joseph, how do we recover from that?
You cannot continue to associate with this memo in any way at all. You must completely rebuke it. Still,
No,
in the moment
that's
where
insane. You
now
don't
at this moment
have
your
to
poll
do
your
that.
polling is going to do much better, because
do
your
not
opponent
have to
polling
do
will
that.
tank.
No. I'm saying already with your opponent being implicated in possible collusion.
Secretary
this is going to be
President.
great for you.
Don't say
And while
anything.
There is a
Secretary-
path
while
forward for the
while
factory
President, may I
without
speak?
doing the compromise that you talked
while
about in the memo.
Secretary Greenhorn said you should take a middle road approach. This
See,
is the time
the
to be
president's
president's
decisive.
hand
The
is up.
president would like to speak.
So, I would like to hear from the vice president.
Thank you.
But if I may, I have a question for you, Secretary Joseph, to ponder while we hear what the vice president says. Do you think people who were planning on voting for my opponent, who now has been outed as maybe having some shady behavior, were I to rebuke this, would suddenly vote for me? Do you really think it would sway voters who were not planning on voting for me? Now ponder that.
Think on it.
Ponder it. Now, yes,
Here's-
please, Vice President.
Here's what
Shannon
I'll say.
Wilson.
I think that the read that voters will see the CEO stepping down and think, oh, some really shady shit happened, that's a potential read. That's one that I think gives the least amount of agency to our constituents. I think a much more common read is that people don't like sneaks. They don't like people who leak things. That's not a popular thing to take. I think that people are going to see this as he spoke, his college roommates, they're going to see him stepping down as a very noble act, as a patriotic act. And I think that if you don't at least somewhat stand by your friend, it's going to seem like you are a coward. I think that
Agreed.
it's a good stance to take, to say, despite the noise that has been produced by a secretary who was fired for gross incompetence, someone who could not do her job, that she wanted to come and stab you in the back with this personal communication, and she thinks, and your opponent thinks, that it can affect the decisions that you were going to make. I think that America wants a strong leader. I think that saying that I am going to stand with the decision that I thought was a good decision before any of this noise happened will show the American people that you mean business. And people want to vote for someone who will get things done.
In that vein,
Exactly.
Secretary Joseph, Secretary Gallup, your opinions are very clear. We know this. Let us at least look around the table for a second. There are other folks here with advice to give.
Yeah, I haven't spoken enough.
I'm
honestly.
listening to what other people are saying.
Truly,
go on.
what Vice President Shannon is saying is valid, sure. But in this immediate term, the evidence is shoddy at best. You said it yourself.
What
We
is
did not
your stance,
rush.
Secretary of Defense?
What are you
Secretary
saying?
Shaw, what
I-
do you believe in?
Secretary Shaw, you've been talking around this whole thing this entire time, and I don't think I still quite understand what you're trying to say, because it seems like you're kind of dilly-dallying across the aisle.
I have been hearing you loud and clear, Secretary. I believe you want us to support the memo, yes? To send a strong message?
Thank you, Mr. President. That is my personal viewpoint. However, I care about your reelection. I really do. What we can do in the short term is give it a statement, firm, but not confirming the theories. We say that the FBI is looking into collusion in regards to Miss Doe. Collusion about entities that have America's disinterest at heart. That is all we need to do. And beyond that, what we need to think about is what kind of president you want to be moving forward. Because in this sense, Madam Vice President is correct. What are you going to stick up for? Really? The American people? Their future? Their development? And what are you willing to pay for it? Because the more we have to rely on imports, the more we have to rely on foreign countries, the more we have to truly sign these deals that limit our potential, the more the American people are going to turn against you. That is my stance, Secretary Gallup, and that is my opinion. Because at the end of the day, as long as we have a strong military, nobody will challenge the greatness of the American populace, right?
I would also
up our spending.
I would like to say I agree with that, except one point here that I'd like to make. We don't have to support the memo. We just have to support the friendship that you have, a long-running friendship with this CEO. You support that, and therefore it implies support of the memo without a direct statement, which leaves wiggle room. We want wiggle room.
Rebuking the memo does not have to be standing against your friend. You can show that you are someone who supports your friend. However, you are also professional and you have principles, and you can say that despite my friendship,
friend doesn't.
I acknowledge that. Nope, that is not what that implies.
No, it
I
is.
acknowledge your request.
Let
Secretary
the Secretary speak. Go ahead.
It does not. It doesn't imply anything about your colleague that hasn't already been put out there and implied by his actions. So what you are saying essentially is you have a long-time friendship with this person. However, you cannot acknowledge this memo as having any credibility because it was nothing more than a personal correspondence. And about your question earlier, which I definitely remember was you had a question for me, and I remember what it was.
My question that I'm excited to hear your answer to is, let's say, yes, I go out there and I say, this was merely talk. I do not agree to this memo. Do you think that voters who were not planning on voting for me will suddenly switch? Is that a strong enough stance?
No, what I'm saying is that there are voters who now already have switched in hearing that your opponent has been colluding against you.
Switched
and
up.
So, or are having more doubts about your opponent. And so in the wake of these undecided voters or voters who have now switched to you, you need to take a strong stance to show that you are in fact a leader and aren't wishy-washy, Don't flip-flop on what you said, which, if we'll recall, what you said to the American people was, we are doing this deal. We are joining in this deal with the rest of the world to keep the environment safe. You've made that promise already. So by doing anything else besides completely rejecting the premise of this memo, you are going back on your public word.
The voters that switched to you switched to you
Mr. President, I would like to add on to what
Oh
Secretary
my God. Copies of the vaguely positive reply that I sent to the Cavendish CEO have been issued to the media.
We have to stand on your principles.
Stand on your
Mr.
principles.
President, Mr. President, was it a clear yes or a clear no?
It was vague.
It was vague.
It was vague.
Which is
it
why
was
you just
also
said
a discussion with your friend. It was a discussion with your friend, and you not making a deal, you not making a promise, does not mean you can come out and say, you could say, we were talking. We were discussing this.
What matters more? A vague, unclear answer in an email with a friend, or what you said publicly to the millions of people that live in this country and the rest of the world?
What matters is your actions, Mr. President.
You have said
what matters is your
actions.
actions.
You said privately do it with friends.
You go up there and say, "Hello, America! I'm taking your jobs. I'm taking your health care."
That is absolutely not what we are saying.
That is not what we're suggesting whatsoever.
People want a rat
you
to
say
be
you're a
bashed
principled person
and a
who
snake
sticks
to be
with what they say.
What you're
killed.
saying is we need to get the military and we need to bully the rest of the world. This is about working with the world.
Personal
Mr.
words
President,
to friends in an email and more about what you say to them.
Real. For a second, it's not just about voters in this race. It's about the people in power, not politics. I'm talking money. Straight up. Mr. President, if you go against CEO Cavendish in this moment, you are denying safety for the people who keep you in your place, who keep us all here with their tax incentives.
I'm sorry,
Truly.
the CEO who no longer has that influence after stepping down from that
The
position?
rebuke of friendship such as this is to align yourself with the snake.
My head is spinning. I want each of you to take 1 minute, give me your elevator pitch, and tell me exactly what you think we should do. Which of our options?
Who do you want to hear from first, Mr.
Let's
President?
intersplice some different opinions. So first I'll hear from Buster Ballot.
All right. Here's the thing. Here's all we can spin this. So here's the thing. We bash the rat, which is the Ms. Doe who leaked all this information. We say that this is someone who is colluding with the opponent as evidence is starting to show. We say the FBI is looking into this potential collusion. Let's not say we have any hard evidence yet, but we just say that the FBI is looking in to potential collusion that Ms. Doe had with your opponent. That's enough to get that into people's minds. Then you just state that you appreciate your friend's honor, your friend's nobility in this situation, and that it is a shame that such personal conversations with a friend have been leaked to the public. It has put a relationship, a long-standing friendship, in jeopardy that did not need to be, and that you look forward to maintaining a strong relationship with the people that drive the economy in this country and will build jobs, while also recognizing your duty to the global world at large.
Thank you, Buster. So I'm hearing spin.
Spin. Bash the rat, support your friend.
I would love to take the beginning of that and add a little to it. I think, yes, we can spin it to a degree, but I think that the American people can smell bullshit, and they'll know that you're not standing by your friend if we don't take a firm stance there. So I think that we should say, yes, this was a personal conversation. It is horrendous that a traitor has leaked this personal conversation, but a good deal is a good deal. And this is a good deal.
And you say support.
I say support.
Can we hear from Secretary Gallup?
Yes. So, Mr. President, as we have been talking and throughout this entire debate, I think this issue boils down to the fact of what your promises were to the American people, what your promises were to the world. As the President of the United States, you are the leader of the free world. And to lead the free world, we need to leave a world for our children and our children's children. And this is important to show that you are making a stance on the environment. by you making this stance on supporting the environment and wanting to make sure that we can still build the factory. At some point, there was a deal to make the factory. But the issue with this is that the people are thinking that some of the regulations and some of the steps along the way to make the factory were skipped based on the memo and based on what was implied. And so I think this issue is you make a statement rebuking the idea that you don't have to say that this does not have to come between you and your friend. This just has to come between the idea of this was a discussion. The discussion was not finished. We had not yet come to a conclusive agreement. By rebuking the deal does not mean that you were going back on your word or going back and seeming wishy-washy. This is you saying that I take time to think. I take time to come to the ideas that are best for the American people. So I think you should
Thank
rebuke.
you, Secretary Gallup. I hear for rebuke. Now, please, Secretary Shaw.
Secretary Gallup is right in saying that you are the leader of the free world, but because of that, you get to decide the rules. Truly, at the end of the day, you are caring about America first. What you do by saying that you rebuke the memo is saying that you're weak. You cow in the face of foreign opposition. But we don't do that here in America. The environment can't vote for you. People vote for you, and the people need healthcare. The people need jobs. The people need to see you as a leader who is somebody who puts America first. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it was one treaty and we signed it. And even if every other country signs it, at the end of the day, we make the rules. Support Cavendish. Hell, he's out of a job now. I'm sure there's a position we can fill in the White House coming up. Really, seriously, if we want to care about the people here, their lives, I agree. What Chief of Staff Buster is saying, we can sure keep it close to the word and make sure to be vague about it. Exactly. We still don't know. We still don't know what's happening. Don't even bring up your political opponent. Say that the FBI is currently investigating collusion with enemies of America. That's it. Because what Miss Doe did is treason, and that should be dealt with the highest order of seriousness. You are a man of your word, and you need to communicate to both the voters and the people who pull the strings in the background that you will not cow in the face of foreign dignitaries.
But don't spit in the face
of the president.
Just to be sure I'm clear, you are with supporting or you are with spinning?
Support it. Support the memo. Say that you stand and support your friend, as Vice President said. We don't need to be so forthright with it, but also don't bring up the global environment agreement. Just say that at the end of the day, what you are committed to, despite all that has happened, are American jobs, giving people health care, making sure that they have what they need to survive, regardless of what it costs.
Secretary Joseph, we only have a couple
you gotta get on stage
before the press release. Anything I haven't thought of in your final advice?
Mr. President, what this comes down to is a matter of what words hold value. What words hold more power? Do the words you said to the American people, to the people of the world, hold more power? Do they matter more? Or do we value private words said between you and a couple powerful people behind the scenes? Because there's already plenty of people out there who would say the latter's what matters. And this is the perfect opportunity to tell them, no, that is not what I care about. That is not where the power is held. The power is with you, the people. The power, my words, are to you. And that is the conversations that matter. The dubious origin, the dubious nature of these leaked emails, we now know exactly how malicious the intention was behind it. So this is the perfect opportunity to distance yourself from it, because the closer you are with this email, with the words in this email, with the assertions here, the further you are from the trustworthy face that you have shown to the American people. You have been an honest ruler. Not ruler.
It's
sorry.
Time. It's
hey, we
time.
can say it.
So I've considered everything that you all have told me. I've considered what it would mean to value the American people and my word to them. However, it might look like I'm wishy-washy and not standing by a solid friend, and we'd be taking votes. We'd be taking jobs away from Montana, who doesn't have a ton of votes. And the voters who are upset in California and New York, they can influence the election. So at the end of my time here, I've got 2 advisors telling me to support it. I've got 2 advisors telling me to rebuke it, and 1 advisor telling me to spin the narrative. And I have to say, I feel most moved and convinced to support it.
What does this mean?
So what
For
this
us.
means, the substantial benefits of a new Cavendish Corporation factory in an economically underdeveloped area is important to the well-being of the American economy, and to hell with the tree huggers, international critics, and conspiracy theorists. Mechanically, what this looks like, conservation, down. Development, up. Military, nil. Voter satisfaction, down.
Yes!
Health, up. Centrism, down. Balanced budget, nil. International prestige, down.
Yes.
Tax revenue, up.
Yes!
Yes.
3 for 3,
I
baby!
got nothing.
I want
President, I would
I
like to
got-
tender my resignation.
Hey, I have this
My
great
God,
replacement.
I told
His
you
name's
we should-
Cavendish.
You'll never be reelected. The voters don't want you
I got
anymore.
2.
The
I want
global
to be
scale doesn't-
president!
Now,
Oh my God,
I
you should
wanna
have
be
listened.
president.
Mr. President, I've known you for
I
15
was-
years. I only have
I
your
was-
best interest at heart.
I was anti-voter satisfaction because I want
So you
I want to
could get
take over.
reelected.
Dang. Wait, okay, can we see what what spin would have done? I want to see if it
Yes.
actually
Yeah,
happened.
yeah.
yes. Do we want to do that before we decide who had the most points?
Oh, we
Yes,
should probably
yes.
say who has the most points first.
I got everything but
not me.
favors military.
I was 3 for 3.
Damn.
So the winner is the person who gets the most points. You get 1 point for accomplishing each of the following. The outcome reads up. The outcome reads down for an agenda you oppose. One of your assertions of fact is supported by the printed outcome. And you lose a point anytime the outcome reads down for an agenda you favor, outcome reads up for an agenda you oppose, or one of your assertions of fact is contradicted. I don't know if we did many assertions of
I don't
facts.
think we did them super firmly. I think now would be a good time to argue. I will say one of my assertions was as more emails are leaked, it's going to be bad for us. And then your personal email was leaked, and that was bad.
One of my assertions was, I think, America first, fuck everybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that's
What is that?
That's not a fact.
I don't know.
forgot
When you,
about that,
it's when you like stake your credibility on like, I know this thing's gonna happen, and then it does or it doesn't
Which,
happen.
Loki, I don't think that we super heavy did
Nobody,
We
that.
did it.
nobody
I was
really
trying
did
to-
that.
I feel like I talked about the personal discussion part of it before it was like fully said by the CEO that it was a personal discussion.
But did you say it's going did you say
On my
they are
credibility.
going to? I don't think it just like because I don't think I did it, but the closest thing to it I think was me saying more emails are going to be released.
I said they are. I referred to I said they were like an operative about Ms. Doe, and then
And that-
they were-
that
they took up the
happened.
documents. Yeah.
She was colluding for sure.
Yeah.
I think a lot of
I said the American
assertions
people
are-
aren't going to like it.
Yeah, I feel like we should focus on the ups and downs just because we didn't do a like here is an assertion.
Yeah.
We didn't write them.
I
Yeah.
forgot
I
about that
didn't
So
mechanic.
Anish got
I did
4.
too.
You got
We
4.
were living it.
Yeah.
I did get 4. I favored
So-
tax revenue. I favored health. I opposed international prestige, obviously, and opposed conservation, obviously.
I got 3.
Nice.
I think it is.
Including your
I was
opposed?
pro.
I was pro tax revenue. I was anti voter satisfaction, and voter satisfaction went down, and I was pro development.
Wow.
I was pro conservation, pro tax revenue, pro military, and anti centrism.
I was pro voter satisfaction, pro development, and pro international prestige, which is why I was like, we should spin this.
Huh.
I
Yeah.
That was the best option, and I was like, that's gonna make voter satisfaction higher.
Yeah.
I was pro conservation, anti development, pro
Oh, yeah.
I don't care about the economy over the
Yeah,
environment.
that's true.
Pro balanced budget and pro international prestige. So I am at -3.
That was rough. Yeah.
That was rough.
at a -1.
Sorry, Mama.
It was very hard. I thought the hippies were gonna win for a while, but thank God Vice President came through.
No
with
worries.
a subtle support.
I thought we were on the
Congrats,
same
Anish.
side the whole time until y'all were like,
I think I
outright
would have lost.
supported,
I think I
outright
would have
sponsored.
lost
Wait
either
a
way.
sec, wait a sec.
Politics.
That's, we had to
'cause-
go.
Because for
Well,
some
you were
reason I was
all-
like, oh yeah, it'll be a good idea to take everyone else's opinions.
Well, you were all going to the bathroom, and Nisha and I were colluding on the
We
call.
were colluding.
My God,
We were like, "You're pro
Smart.
development."
man.
I didn't say any which way.
Yeah.
So that's the end of the game.
Well,
Woo!
We can talk about that in the game episode if we want. The question
True.
that Sam
the
had.
other outcomes. Good idea.
So thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed Executive Decision. Join us for the next episode where we will be discussing the game in our game discussion episode. For that, we will see you on a different side of the table.
This episode was sponsored by the campaign to re-elect Zach Gordon.
We
Do it.
approve this
I'm
message.
Zach Gordon and I approve this.
This episode was sponsored by the campaign to elect Shannon Wilson.
Oh,
Oh.
Hit us with a I'm Zach Gordon and I.
I'm Zach Gordon, and I approve this message.
Isn't Zachary Gordon the name of the Diary of a Wimpy Kid guy?
Is it really?